On multiple continents, we've been losing our strategic positions and strategic bases that we've fought for decades, from Africa, literally every single continent, to Eastern Europe, and obviously in the global war on terror after 20 years, the most embarrassing withdrawal in American history.
Yeah, well, Rob, let's talk about that. We had the withdrawal from Iraq. I was in Iraq in '09 when we were drawing down. I know you guys were in and out of the same areas. I was watching us pull resources out, denying the fact that there were bad guys still doing bad things, that were killing coalition troops, and yet they wouldn't let us get them because of the perception that the war was over.
Yeah, the perception of the war being over is something we've been doing wrong, and that's getting too political. And I don't mean just the politics of the country. I'm talking personal power for politicians. Making a promise to get out of a place because that was said in the campaign, or in the case of Afghanistan on 9/11, and just making decisions that don't make sense, because a lot of stuff, I don't know if you noticed, in D.C. doesn't make sense. But the way that I put Iraq is one of those things where we shouldn't have invaded, but we shouldn't have left the way we did. And when the convoy's coming from north to south, we should have hit them with some A-10s. ISIS is gone, didn't do that because I guess we could be nice to the enemy. But the thing with Afghanistan that I noticed too is if you took the bin Laden team and asked them to come up with the worst possible way out of Afghanistan, we would have come up with exactly the way the Biden administration did it. And that's all because they wanted to be out before 9/11. We lost a lot of people because of that.
Right, but the unwillingness to actually define the enemy was the bigger problem. It was, we're going to work with them, we're going to give them money. I mean, hell, we left, what, $80 billion worth of stuff, including night vision and Humvees over there. They didn't define the enemy, and therefore we couldn't defeat it.
I mean, that's the story of oldest time, right? Whether it's Vietnam, the Korea War, us being able to define who we're fighting is something that it's necessary for us to know who to beat. You know, if you take the military and you point them, I still believe, even though we are in a dangerous position with Secretary Hegseth trying to fight to bring back the strength, we still have, without a doubt, the most powerful military on the planet. And I'm so inspired by the young men and women that, especially recently, have raised their hand to serve. But watching Pete Hegseth, I mean, it's the truth.
Yeah.
In Germany, training with the Special Forces unit, like with the Hulk running right in front of him.
That guy was huge.
He was huge.
That's a big dude.
I'm just like, that's the America that I know and that I love.
Put that on a recruiting poster. I mean, Rob, we had record low recruiting over the last 4 years. It turns out if you tell a bunch of people that were in your ranks that they don't like them anymore, they go home.
Yeah.
And we had posters of people with two moms, or transgender this, or DEI that. It's like, well, this is a place where we're supposed to put bullets in bad guys' faces.
That's it too. And the military can be very simple. The way you're successful in the military is master the basics, keep it simple, and leave the diplomacy to the diplomats, right? Go in, crush people, and leave. That's all it's got to be. And then we just start getting into this woke ideology with, okay, you're raised by two women in San Francisco. Great, fine. I don't think ISIS is afraid of that. I don't think Al-Qaeda is afraid of that. And even like Queers for Palestine, if they went over there,
they'd throw them off.
If I went over there with them, they'd murder them before they murdered me. Yeah. They don't like them. Yeah. But the problem is we're trying to play nice with everybody. It's like, I don't know if it's you don't understand them, or we were talking backstage about the enemy. Or you just said just now on stage. We're bad at defining the enemy, and we just think that. Here's a little thing I learned as a battle interrogator, especially dealing with terrorists. They lie.
No.
Yeah, they'll lie.
What?
Yeah, they'll lie to your face.
Weird.
Drago, back me up on that.
But. We can sit here and joke about this, but there's some serious work. And look, I actually talked to Secretary Hegseth this morning about it, was trying to get him to call in, but he has this little thing like managing the whole country's, DOD. But he's got a serious job ahead of him. I mean, they've already increased recruiting in 30 days. Weird how if you put warfighters, you attract more warfighters. But in order to do that, I mean, you're talking about a massive deficit, not only from a financial standpoint, where we've spent 3 times as much on aircraft carrier budgets, where we've, massively reduced the force. The COVID vaccine was one of the greatest reductions of good men and women, and we have to build that back. How do we start?
It's a great question, and I think from the top down, seeing the Secretary of Defense out doing PT with the troops in the morning. It's not just the number in which we were failing to recruit for the past 4 years, but it's who we have been recruiting. We were recruiting, and I'm so grateful for everybody that raised their hand to serve. We want strong, fearless people that want to be part of the most lethal fighting force on the planet. That's who we want. We want them as a deterrent. We want the rest of the world and every single one of our peer-level adversaries to look at our men and women in uniform and be like, nah, Not freaking worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the other thing too, is Rob, you walked in a door, shot the world's most wanted criminal in the face, and didn't think twice about it. How do we get more people? Thank you. How do we get more people that want to join because of that versus college benefits, which are great, but also, pushing DEI, pushing personal growth, and things like this? How do we get more people that want to join because they want to do what you did?
I think it starts with the recruiting, and it impacted me more to see the Marine killing the dragon with the sword. I really like that. Plus the movie Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen. That was really,
greatest movie
really,
ever. That's
greatest
why
movie.
I became a SEAL.
100% accurate. But it's got to start with that too. And we're in a place too, and it's the generation with staring at your phone, not going to the gym, stuff like that. We just lower the standards. It's like, well, you can't do the set amount of pushes. We'll just cut it in half. And I think that, the good men and women are out there. We just haven't been focusing on them. They're great people. There always has been. The leadership has gotten bad simply because you get to a certain level, be it senior enlisted or a senior officer, you become political because you want the next job right down the street here. The way to do it is literally get back to the basics, which is forward defense, alliance solidarity, and deterrence. And we're just simply not going to deter people by being nice, but the military's job is not to be nice. Again, we do have public affairs, great. We also have infantry who will swim over the horizon at night and kill you, and that's what we need.
And not to mention, we will complain about it the whole time we're swimming.
Oh, yeah.
Why do SEALs post-career don't like cold water, or
they torture us with it?
It's wet.
The water's wet. I've seen dudes in combat go an extra mile just to not get their feet wet.
Yeah, man.
I'm not even making that up. America's finest, just keep me dry.
Yeah, exactly.
With recruiting, the standards have to be set. They have to be met. They cannot be moved. They cannot be bent. It has to be merit-based. If you're going to fly a helicopter, it's because you're the best person that can be on the stick.
Absolutely.
If you're going to be pulling down night vision to go on a mission, it's because you passed every single one of the standards to be there, and you deserve to be there, whether you're wearing a trident, a green beret, or you are proudly just running down, as every single infantryman knows, to shoot, move, communicate, and medicate. You met the standard, and you deserve to be there.
Right. Well, that's the other thing too. A 7.62 doesn't understand the difference if you're black, white, blue, green, 5'7", 5'4", 250, 150. It doesn't matter. So why did we get away from a general standard? And now, if you're a 40-year-old woman in the military, you can get 24 minutes to run 2 miles. But if you're a 22-year-old male, you have to do it in 18 minutes. Like, how did we deviate?
Well, again, we need to get back to we deviated just by, we saw when I joined in 1996, uniform, bad haircut, and all we saw was green or blue. That's it. But now we're to the point, because of a softer outlook, or because we're so connected, just be yourself. Express yourself. That's not the military's job to express yourself. You'll be fine. But again, too, 16 and a half years in the Navy, with the men and women with whom I served, we never had a problem with sexism or racism, because it just didn't make sense. We knew each other. Even when I was getting out, don't ask, don't tell was the big thing. And I remember in Afghanistan, this is after the Bin Laden raid, looking at a bunch of Navy SEALs, I know damn well some of you are gay. I don't really care. And at the bottom line, what you do behind closed doors is your business. The big question is, can you carry me with body armor after I've been shot and bring me home to my wife? That's it.
I agree with that. We had a guy in my first platoon who got out of the military, and he was like, guys, I got to tell you, I'm gay. And we're like, yeah, we know.
And we don't care.
Nobody cared.
Nobody cares. Sorry, man.
Seriously, but that's it, too. He can do his job, and nobody cares. But then you get involved with the media, and they just want to spin it because they want the talking points to badmouth whichever Republican's running.
So let's talk, Secretary Hegseth comes in now, 8% cuts across the board. A lot of people on the other side are saying, well, hey, this is going to diminish our fighting force. And I look at that, I'm like, look, we're still using floppy disks and fax machines. Sure. Like the DMV is more technologically advanced in some areas of the Pentagon right now. So, there's a vast, massive redundancy within the Department of Defense, and how do you get to the bottom of that without even slightly creeping on the mission of capability?
And if you're trying to become effective and more efficient, the first thing that you do is you recognize fat and you cut it from it. So whether it's fraud, waste, and abuse, and in some instances we're seeing DOJ just come through with a battle axe to do that, which is awesome.
Yeah.
On the military side, I would definitely argue, and I know personally, as I think everyone else does, and if you've been in the military, that there are good redundancies, like a good PACE plan, primary, alternate, contingent, and emergency, and on the communication side, on like multiple routes in and out. But when it comes to bureaucratic regulation, and the military is not supposed to have that, what is called the kill chain. How effectively can I take from a decision to do something to the execution of it? How fast is that thing? And that kill chain has gotten so many bureaucratic steps in there. We have become ineffective and inefficient. Those have to be cut.
Yeah, well, that's the danger of the big corporate mindset too. I mean, you guys know as well as I do. You get the green light to do an op, and you have to get it approved up the chain, and by that time, the guy's already left his house and fled the country.
That's true. Yeah, and I mean, it comes back to the efficiency that they're doing right now. You need redundancy in place, to say, like with submarine warfare. If one gets an order, another one needs it too in case it gets hit and no one knows. That stuff like that. But the Pentagon hasn't passed a budget. An audit. Hasn't done it. And you got to start with that because, and we see it down at the platoon level where they're like, well, here's our budget for the year and we have to spend it all or we won't get it next year. It should be the opposite. Right. If you're more efficient, maybe these guys are squared away. We can get them more work. We can get them more funding. Right. But it's almost like the free money thing where we're just going to get it again as long as we get rid of it. And
it also seems if you cut even 8%, let's just round it up to an even 40 for good time's sake, and you will remove all those limitations, but you'll also remove a significant amount of processes that were put in place after World War II, a time where we have now quadrupled our number of generals, and now I would just say effectively we lost the war in Iraq and Afghanistan because the enemy gets a say in that. How do you rebuild that within the ranks? I mean, there's obviously morale has already gone way up under Donald Trump, big time. But how do you rebuild that with generational support?
So, right now with General George and the Sergeant Major of the Army, Mike Weimer. Mike Weimer, former unit guy, was part of the special missions units, also a special forces guy. They clearly have said time and time again, they want to focus on lethality, maneuverability, flexibility. And these are things that bureaucratic systems and multiple checks and balances always slow down. They want kids being able to 3D print a tool that would have cost through a government contract on a named project tens of millions of dollars.
And 7 years to approve.
That's right. Yeah. And all of that, we have to innovate. We have to innovate our way out of this, and we have to become the 2025 fast, lethal fighting force where the rest of the world is like, ooh, buddy. Want nothing to do with that kid from Oklahoma that just throws hay bales, and now we're giving him the best tools possible to go and kill his enemy.
Right, and something on that too, that the point, I think just we were talking about Secretary Hegseth working out with the guys and the big monster dude. That's something else right there you haven't seen with the SecDef, but that's what you need. It's always been impressive when the general officer, the general or the admiral, comes and talks to the E5 Mafia. Right. Hegseth, Mr. Secretary, sorry, Pete, like I've always been saying, we need a mid-level officer with combat experience to take the Secretary of Defense because he will talk to the troops. And that when you're working out with the troops, you can ask them simple stuff. Right. Where are you from? Why did you join? What are you anticipating? What do you expect out of this? How's morale? Okay, morale's bad. Why? Morale's good. Why? Find out why. And then obviously it is a pyramid, top-down type stuff. But they might want to think about potentially changing that up a little bit.
But also flattening the organization, allowing that direct feedback. I remember when I was in, the Admiral would come down and they'd be like, hey, look, if you have any questions for the Admiral, clear it through us first. Carl, you're not allowed to ask any questions whatsoever. But it's, and I raised my hand, this is in 2009 after we just gotten back, and I said, what's the desired end result in Iraq? I mean, I got in a lot of trouble for that, but they had no answer.
Yeah. It was heartbreaking on the ground in Afghanistan, in August of 2021, all the way to the 26th of the Abbey Gate bombing. That sent a shockwave through all of GWAT and recruiting. Nobody likes to lose. America's not built to lose. We're built to be the most powerful fighting force on the planet, the military is, and the country that's the strongest that's ever existed in the existence of our species. Greatest country ever. So our young people need to look at the service members, men and women in uniform with the flag, and with pride, be like, I want to be like Rob. I want to be like Carl. Right. I want to go win wars. It's time for us to start not just being preventative, but for everyone to know that the next war that we go into, we are not just going to fight it. We're not there to perpetuate the military-industrial complex. We are there to destroy our enemy in the most violent way possible.
There you go.
And I just want to point out that the Army guy said that they want to be like the two Navy guys over here. But that said, I mean, look, we have 11 carrier battle groups, so they're not in reserve for someday. We're pretty much there now. Why do we care what Europe thinks? Why do we care what other countries think? Why are we catering, especially policy within the DoD, to what other countries think when we can do whatever we want because our aircraft carriers outrun their jet skis?
Well, that's true, too. I mean, I remember seeing a recruiting poster with somebody's water skiing behind a carrier and people laughing at it. I was like, no, that could happen. That's the fastest ship we got.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how fast it goes, but it's pretty fast. But talking about Europe, too, moving forward, every time we've left Europe, we had to go back.
Yeah.
So we got to be careful about that now, too. But the problem is with Europe being so weak, most of them aren't paying the 2% GDP they're supposed to be paying. But we're not going to be able to deter China, especially a China-Russia coalition, while we're trying to hold the hand of the people that are afraid of Ukraine or going into Poland. I don't think they're going into Poland, but regardless, we're not going to, the fight. You got to figure the 5,000 miles of a supply chain we're going to need in the Pacific.
Right.
When China within the next few years, tries to take Taiwan. There's other allies over there dealing with a much bigger enemy, and then you're getting into the AI thing, the drone fighting. I'm so glad that wasn't prevalent when we were there, but microwave weapons, stuff like that. I mean, we're still back in time. We do have smarter people than this panel. They're working, but they got to be smart about being.
That's a pretty low bar, if you don't know, for us. But no, I mean that's 100% right. The technology is almost outpacing the need for some manning, not all. But how do you balance the technology versus the man on the ground?
This is a question that we've asked every single war and every single conflict. Ultimately, it really does come down to the men and women on the ground.
Yes.
It comes down to the quality of the people, their integrity, and their work ethic. And I love this country. I'm so proud that I get to wear the uniform and the flag. And I get to look to my left and my right, and I am just so inspired by the strength of our service members and the men and women in this country. And I have total confidence that we have the best and the brightest in the world that are answering that question. And they are giving the best tools to the best men and women in uniform to then go and both prevent our next war and, heaven forbid, if we do have to fight it, win it.
Yeah. Let's talk about kids. Rob, I know you got a new one.
Yeah, I got a birthday on Sunday.
Yeah.
My daughter Valor turns 1. Wow.
So, congrats. So, I have 3 myself. And for the last 4 years, and the first time in my life, I come from a somewhat military family. I would not have advised my children to join the military. How do we make sure that no one ever wants to have that side of a conversation again?
That's a tough conversation, too, with, again, the politics getting in, the D.C. swamp ruining everything. It's a tough conversation to have, too, because a couple months ago, someone asked, are your children going to join the military? I don't know. I mean, maybe you tell them, get straight A's, get an academy, and learn how to fly something, but the other stuff, I don't know, but now, it's turning the tide, but they got to maintain that. Right now, we're in the honeymoon phase still, even though it's Donald Trump's second term. You got to maintain that momentum. Yeah. And again, too, we have the great patriots in this country, too. The problem is, we have X now, but a lot of the voices get shut down. I don't know if you know the shadow banning and stuff like that. The Patriotic Americans have been shut down before. And we got to, hopefully, with some of the people coming over from the social media side, getting more conservative. We could hope, but we'll see what happens. Right?
I kind of want to leave it at this: as we move out of this phase, we got 3 years and 11 months left. I feel like a lot of countries have kind of said,
I think we're going to win the next 6 elections.
I sure hope so. But
at a bare minimum.
Yeah, minimum. Zero reason why we shouldn't have at least the next 12 years.
We're fixing this country.
So, with 30 seconds or less to solve the world's problems, how do you get to a place where we install mechanisms that even politics can't corrupt it?
Yeah, building that beachhead where these are things that are going to stand the test of time, that are going to stand a midterm election, and then the next national election. A strong thing is harder to kill. Like this idea, to answer that question simply, a strong soldier, a strong military, they're just flat out harder to defeat. So I want strength, masculinity, power, big, murderous men to be running towards the military, to put the flag on their shoulder to serve this country. That's what I want.
Who don't really care about people's feelings.
They do not. No. They care about winning, and they want to be strong when they do it.
Rob, Tim, been a pleasure.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.